So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world. And welcome to another interview of the Shield on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector. And today we have a different interview. We're interviewing Scotty Heath, and he's the founder of Tankcrimes. And I like
You
that.
see that? I don't know how I do that. It happens every time I do a peace sign. I get
Oh,
birthday.
yeah, I'm like, what the
It's
hell
great.
was that?
I don't know who did it. It started doing it 2 days ago on my Zoom.
Well, at
That's
least you
cool. Those
didn't,
are my little Zoom tricks.
yeah, at least you didn't turn into a cat or something. So we're here because, he founded this tiny record label in 2002, and it's been almost more than 20 years. And it really, it's a record label that really fits into the punk and metal underground. So first of all, Scotty, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm actually on a little press tour today, which is not, normally I point the people like you to talk to my bands, which I know you've talked to a bunch of Tankcrimes artists too on the thing. But with this kind of label showcase tour coming up, I thought I would put myself out here and talk to some people too and help share some information about me and the label, but also just kind of keep keep the information about my tour in the atmosphere as we're getting closer to it for everybody. So yeah, happy to be here, Hector. Thanks for inviting me on.
No,
Hey,
thank you.
hey, are you on a couch?
I am on the couch.
All right, I wanted to see. You seem like a chill dude. I wanted to make sure you were on the couch, though.
Yeah, I'm
I'm a
usually
I'm a
on the
I'm a
couch.
chill dude on a chair.
Yeah, on the chair. Sometimes it depends because I have kids. So if there's a lot of like stuff around, like for example, for some of the bands, if it's too messy, I'll do it with the logo. But no, usually I'm on the couch.
Okay, sweet.
So yeah, I like the logo that you have for your for the label and the slogan. What is the
Thank
slogan
you.
again? Because I like the slogan.
Well, wait, the slogan or the logo?
I like the logo, but there's also a slogan that's pretty catchy.
Oh, punk rock heavy metal, underground punk rock heavy metal for true freaks, something like
Yeah,
that.
so
I
yeah,
might be losing it.
for true freaks. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we like to say underground threatening punk rock heavy metal for true freaks. I think that encapsulates everything that we're doing over here.
Yeah. So let's go back in time to when you first started this back in 2002. How did you go about forming your own record label?
Well, now, as of this year, 2024, Tankcrimes is now half of my entire life. So and I did not, this is not what I thought was going to happen when we first started. And as fast as I can tell it, because I know we're on time, Tankcrimes has a really interesting start because I did not put out the first record. The first record was an offer for a hardcore band I was playing in called Deadfall. And we got an offer from this guy, Bob Scammon, who's still a friend, to put out our first 7-inch. And we agreed, and we went to the studio, and we recorded, and we submitted it. And Bob had like a cool seasonal like union job where he would make good pay and then get a lot of time off. And so the record comes out, and Bob comes over to our house. This is when Tankcrimes was in San Francisco. And he comes to our house, and he drops off all 1,100 copies of the 7-inch and says, "Here's your record. I've put it out." And we were like, "Okay, but we thought we're on a record label. Like, what do you mean you put it out?" And he's like, "There they are. It's out. I'm going to keep one. Is that okay?" And we were like, "What?"
Shouldn't he have said like I printed them?
Yeah. So like his idea of like releasing our record with his record label, which was called Controlled by Plague, was that he simply paid to produce the record and handed them over to us. And as cool as that was, we were a young band, and we thought being on a record label meant it could get in stores and other distros and record reviews and zines and stuff. And his idea was just much different and so cool and so unique. But I basically was like the band dad, the one booking the shows, organizing all the rehearsals and stuff like that. And so I didn't want to waste this opportunity of having this record. Like I said, I wanted to be in record stores. I wanted to see a review in Maximum Rock and Roll for my very first record. This was such an exciting thing. And so I knew being in the Bay Area, I was very lucky. There's so many DIY labels out here. So I had some friends that kind of guided me, specifically Jeff Robinson from 6 Weeks Records and Capitalist Casualties. Really just almost, I always tell the story like he handed me a piece of paper, and I don't remember if that's how it goes, but he basically gave me a list and said, these people will review your record. These people might be interested in trading records with you because they also do DIY labels or small distros. And I just went from there. And, Hector, it was not my plan at all to start a label. But before I went to bed that night, I knew I had a record label and I knew that's what I wanted to do. It was like what was daunting to me at that time in my early 20s was just I was fucking broke all the time. And so I never thought I could run a record label. Yeah, I had never thought I could run a record label because that shit costs money, right? But now we were blessed with this gift, and Bob really set me on this path by handing me over these 1,000 records. And I started everything with that. And it, like I said, before I went to bed that night, I knew I wanted to do it, but I had never considered it even a day earlier. But being in the Bay Area and even just the timing around, year 2000, so many bands I liked and so many of like kind of the scene elders that I respected, they all had record labels. I think the point of entry, I'm talking about money, but now it's even much more expensive point of entry to get started, especially doing vinyl and stuff. And once Bob gave me the opportunity to get past that first, $2,000 hump, which at the time seemed like way more money than I could ever have in one place at one time, I just took it from there. And what I did to keep things going is I started doing a 7-inch box distro at shows. I had a 1-inch button machine, so I was making not just like bootleg old punk buttons to sell for 50 cents or $1, but also making buttons for other bands in the scene and other bands coming on tour. So it really helped me make a lot of friends and like network in that way. And I just hit the ground running. And, a lot of people didn't really know what I was doing for a few years. And that's the case with all artistic and creative projects. You really have to stay consistent and do your thing before people take notice. But we were really in a really good place being in the Bay Area. So it was like, I didn't have to like anonymously send my record into Maximum Rock and Roll. I went to Maximum Roll with my record and in a cup of coffee and said, here, please review it. Here's some coffee and like stuff like that. Like it was really easy. There was a lot of, there's always been a lot of focus on the Bay Area, San Francisco and Oakland, and even the surrounding suburbs and other cities in Northern California. There's just more attention on those bands. There's certain cities internationally where you kind of have a leg up on everyone else because eyeballs are already there, and you still see that in the Bay. You still see that in the Bay Area. I don't think our bands are any better than any other region, though. I love our fucking bands. It's just we're in a place where people are watching, so that's if you can take advantage of that, why the hell not? And I certainly did since day one.
No, it's an incredible story. And just to think about it, if that person hadn't like handed you the records, would you have started the record label?
Yeah, because we thought he was going to give us like 150 copies or something like that, like band copies, and then he was going to start a label. And he was going to be the one going over to Maximum Rock and Roll, and he was going to be the one trading records to get distribution, because early on, it's really hard to get your record in stores. They want to put it on consignment, and you've got to check back, and it's just like the margins are so small. It really can feel futile, just like walking into record stores with your records, and they're like, we'll take one for $3 and we'll pay you next in 90 days. It's really hard to stay motivated. It can feel really daunting. And we just thought we were on a record label. So it really happened really fast. And it was like, oh shit, we're not on a record label, but we have a record. And I just took it. And right away I knew. Right away I started already thinking about what other bands I would want to release.
Yeah, and the name, how did you came up with the name Tankcrimes?
I came up with it one day while I was riding the N Judah train in San Francisco, and I just thought it was two cool words that when you smashed them into a new word that didn't mean anything and isn't a word, it just sounded really cool. And I had that name in my back pocket, maybe for a band or something. I came up with it before, and then I applied it to the label once it became mine. And to me, what Tankcrimes means to me, and I like that it's open for interpretation for anyone because it's not a word. I liked that there's two sides to what the word Tankcrimes means to me. One is like the tank crime, it's because it's unstoppable. You know, like a tank coming to town, there's nothing you can do to stop it. And so that kind of leans on kind of more of a hip hop side of like bravado about the label, like, oh, you can't stop us. That was very much from the hip hop side of my fandom, you know, like get in the tank or get out of the way, buddy, because we're fucking coming. So there was that part of it, which reflects my personality. And then the other side of Tankcrimes is that being a punk, I'm an anti-war person. And the Gulf War was going on when I started the label. This was right after 9/11. And Tankcrimes also to me was to, if you wanted to look at it through a different lens, was to just think about the absolute horror of war and how we almost seem helpless as citizens to stop it, and they're ahead of us, and just to shine some light on that we're punks and we're against any and all wars, because the people that suffer aren't the people in charge. It's the citizens, you know. And so I thought that duality of myself, of this bravado, but also this thoughtfulness and empathy about people and our and power and capitalism and war and governments and all this stuff. And I thought I could roll it up into this word that doesn't make any sense. And one thing I never thought about, which ended up being really to our advantage, because this was really early internet, at least for me, making up a word to start a label is great because it's easy to find on the internet. A lot of people say, where can I find you? I say, if you can remember the word Tankcrimes, you'll find it, because it's not a word. I'm the only one that's going to come up if you punch it into your phone.
Yeah, that's right. I found it very easily. And something that I like about the name is that it doesn't have the word metal in it. So you can have punk, you could have hardcore. It sounds like a record label that can have different styles of music and not only like metal.
Yeah, you know, I don't even call it Tankcrimes Records because I never wanted to limit it myself for that. We've never put out, you know, much more stuff besides like t-shirts or whatever. But Tankcrimes is also a show promoting company in the Bay Area. You know, I do tons and tons of shows. I think that's really important to run a label, to be part of booking and stuff like that. And I just think that Tankcrimes, without putting records on the end, it can stay open as I age and things get a little easier on the money side of the label. I could see myself getting into publishing at one point, because part of what we do as punks and metalheads, it's like 50% contemporary and 50% nostalgia. And those things work together. You know, it's where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going. And my bookshelves are filled with books about the history of punk and metal from, you know, era before I was here. And now that I'm getting older, there's eras that I was there for that are starting to be documented in a historical way, looking back. And, you know, I have whole published books just of old flyers, you know, stories, historic. Tons of record labels have been covered and released their own books, and I own all of them. And I could see myself in the future, if I ever have the time, maybe working with writers as well, or historians and people who collect artifacts and want to put together collections and stuff like that. So we'll see, but I never put records at the end of Tankcrimes because I see it as something bigger, even though our main focus is records.
No, I totally get you. That's why I didn't name my channel The Shield Dude on a Couch Talks Metal, because I like shoegaze. I like different. I didn't want to limit myself to just one style. So yeah.
And I support that. I support that, and I celebrate it, because being limited, especially for a creative person, like the word limiting is right in the word limit, you know?
Oh yeah. I've even reviewed I reviewed a trap record by a Puerto Rican artist.
Okay, yeah.
I did it. You know why? Because I can. So, but it's cool that for someone that seems that you said that you didn't have an idea of the record label, it seems that you've done great for yourself. It's been more than 20 years, and You know, question, all the bands that are in your record label, are they all in the Bay Area?
Mostly in the Bay Area. When I started, I wanted to do, I mean, the scene I was part of, I wanted to document that. And I always knew I wanted to work with friends because there's not a lot of money. Even really successful records that I've done, we're not getting rich over here. It's just some of them are easier to do than others because they sell more. And so working with personal friends is a huge part of Tankcrimes, because if there's not a big monetary reward, which is not what I'm chasing at all,
no, it's a passion. It seems that
the
it's
reward,
the
reward, how rewarding it is to me to be working with my friends when we see success and we're moving up steps through the way. That's fucking what it's about, man. That is fucking what is so important to me. And if I was doing that with a stranger, or I mean, it wouldn't be a stranger, but with someone I only talked to online or met after they sent me a demo or something like that, like that works for a lot of labels. That's just a personal choice of mine. And a lot of the people I work with now are some of the same people I've been working with the whole time. I mean, my next release is Ghoul. I've been working with Ghoul since like 2005 or 2006. They have like fucking an obnoxious amount of records on my label, like 8,
Oh, yeah.
like the 8th or 9th record, you know?
And I had the pleasure of talking to Cremator.
Oh, incredible. Incredible. I'm sure that was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I was told that most people can handle that interview, but I'm a jokester myself. So to me,
you got it. Yeah. And it was fun, right?
It.
Yeah. It's hard
like,
to hang out when they're in character.
Yeah, I would wonder maybe someone who's very serious who like would be like, how, what do I ask him? But I'm like, oh, this is supposed to be hilarious and funny. Plus the EP it's a great EP.
It's great. It's great. You know, and it's been a while since they went in the studio. And so we put up the pre-orders and we sold so many records that first day. I just was really, I'm really grateful that everybody stuck around and retained their fandom of Ghoul while they were inactive for so long, you know, and everyone was right there ready to pick it back up. So that's really cool. And you touched on something that's really important to me, is that people I work with and also people I admire, they take their art very seriously, yeah, without taking themselves too seriously at all. And that's a really important personality trait that I'm attracted to. And those are the people that understand that are the people that I look up to, and they're the people that I want to work with. Yeah. Another thing that's really great is that, you know, we're pointing out that I've worked with Ghoul for almost 20 years now too. They've almost been with me since the beginning. Is that a real achievement, a real point of achievement for me with Tankcrimes is that most every band on the label, they do every record with Tankcrimes. And that to me is the biggest compliment from the bands that I work with. And not every band that I work with has gotten another offer. Maybe they haven't had an opportunity to work with someone else. No one cares. But the bands that have gotten other offers have said, thank you. We appreciate it, but we're in a really good place with Scotty and Tankcrimes. And that when I look at even like, for instance, like our wholesale catalog that's direct, I have it listed where all the band's releases are together. This is just an email list, but every time someone requests it and I cut and paste it and send it back to the store or the distro that would like to deal direct to get records, it really just like it fills me with joy seeing that listed, and each band is like 3 to 5 releases, full lengths, all handled under this banner of Tankcrimes. And
I saw that in your the website, and I think that's something that's good about it. That is, they think another record label is not going to have that personal attention, and they're just going to be like empty suits that don't really care about the music, which you really do. It's you have a passion for it. So I think that's why they stay with the record label. There's so many huge record labels, but when you think about it, do they really care about the bands? I don't know.
We don't know. There's I mean, a lot of the big record labels aren't like independent at all anymore. Most of them have been bought up in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Metal Blade, I think, is the biggest label that's still 100% independent still, where most of the other big, full page ad labels have since sold to larger distribution companies and stuff like that. So I want to run the course. And another thing that happens though is that, and I think some smaller labels don't understand this, because there's some really cool like tastemaker labels who do a lot of bands' first releases, but then the band immediately goes to a big label after they get put on the scene by a smaller, more passionate label. And I always feel bad because it's part of my story that the band stuck with me and we grew together instead of taking off at the first opportunity. But it's not all just that they stayed because of me, because when that kind of stuff pushes me to get better, Yeah. So it's like, as I grow and my bands grow, there's more expectations from the band, from the label. And so I try to stay ahead of stuff, like, this band's getting really popular. Some of the bigger labels are starting to inquire about them. And I'm sure there's going to be an offer on the table someday. So what is in those offers? What is it that attracts the bands to go to the larger label? And a lot of those things are like, well, they have lots of advertising and marketing and promotion. They have really good distribution. Our records will be in stores, not just online. There's a lot of things like that. And as my bands have grown, it's been really important for me. The reason they can stay is because I put a lot of my energy, time, and money into making sure that maybe not my brand name's not as big as a big label, but that I can go toe for toe with them, with marketing, with distribution, with stuff like that. And so if I can put a better deal on the table for my bands, which I like to do, which is actually easier for me because I don't have a lot of overhead, so I can actually make a better offer sometimes if it's that important to me, because this office I'm in is 150 meters from my house. I'm just right down the hill. I don't have
it's like do it yourself. Yeah. Like,
yeah. And I don't have a lot of staff. There's a few freelance people, our designer, our PR. We have a digital ad guy that I work with, but those are all freelance people. There's no staff here besides me. Those are just people I hire to help us get there. Yeah, it's you on the couch. It's a chill dude on the chair.
I have some collaborators that sometimes do videos with me, but it's mostly me. But I totally dig it. And the bands that I've interviewed for your record label, and they're awesome records,
Thank you.
So they all have passion. So let's talk about the tour, that Brain Squeeze tour that's coming up. I have the flyer here.
Oh, sweet.
Flyer for, and obviously Municipal Waste is going.
Oh, there we go. I was wondering what the hell was going on. You
21 years of Waste them all. So you have Ghoul, Necrot, Dead Heat, and Cremator from Ghoul told me that at the end of the tour he might kill Dead Heat. But I think he was bullshitting.
Well, they're young, so they're tasty. They're
not corrupted by the music business.
Exactly, and their limbs are still tender.
Correct. So yeah, this tour is pretty awesome tour.
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled. We started the Brain Squeeze was label showcase festivals that I did in Oakland and Municipal Waste. We only got to do 2 of them. There was actually the Tankcrimes Brain Squeeze 3 was booked for 2020. And we never even got to announcement. It was just another casualty of the pandemic, which is fine. And it was almost easier that we didn't get to announce it, even though I had already done all the footwork, because then we didn't have to cancel it. We just got to never announce. But
no, I know what you mean. At least because it would have been like more bittersweet if you announced it. So yeah, it looks like a really cool tour. How, like, do you, I was reading that you do like, you're trying to do like an annual tour, or like February it's the day that you celebrate Tankcrimes Day.
Yeah, I try to do that. Here's the thing, the Tankcrimes Day thing, I'm gonna kind of back off it this year and see what happens. We're only a week away from that, but that was really like, that was an astroturfed campaign, as they say. I kind of made that and like forced it on the fans. And the one last year was pretty successful, but I don't want to put in as much work every year to see how that goes. So we'll see how it goes with that. And annual tour would be a stretch because it's so difficult. But yes, that would be a dream of mine if this could be something that happens all the time. The way this happened was really great because I really owe a lot to my close friends in Municipal Waste who actually put this all together. This just started as a Municipal Waste headlining tour to celebrate this reissue of, Waste 'Em All, the first album, which is now, I'll tell a quick story. When that record came out, Waste 'Em All, Municipal Waste played the record release out near us in Berkeley at 924 Gilman, and the guys were out. And the very first press of Waste 'Em All, the pressing plant had accidentally shrink wrapped the records without putting the insert in them. So Municipal Waste and I are sitting in my bedroom in San Francisco 21 years ago, opening up every record and putting in the insert for the show. We just sat in my room, like in a filing line, and we were just like, one guy would open the shrink wrap and pass it, and then the next guy would put the insert in, and the next guy would put it back in the box. And so I've really, Municipal Waste have been with Tankcrimes since ground zero, really, and have been such an important part of the label because as they've grown, it really gave me an opportunity to look behind the scenes. I'm from my tours with my bands was playing basements and DIY warehouses and stuff. It wasn't until Municipal Waste started growing as a, and now what they've become such a major contemporary metal band. Yeah. But as they grew, I got to be there right with them. And that's how I learned a lot of the stuff I was just talking about, how I had to grow the label to meet the expectations of my bands. A lot of that stuff I learned because I was right there alongside with Municipal Waste as they grew and their albums got bigger and bigger, and they moved from one big metal label to the biggest metal label, and all the stuff I've been able to kind of like pick apart along the way, and even watch like from my kind of more punk vision what the big labels do and the big booking agents do and stuff, and what of that stuff doesn't work for a label like Tankcrimes, and what of it does work that I can apply to us and what we're doing, Yeah. So it's been a long run, but
awesome. I saw them live in Puerto Rico. I think it was in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. They played.
Yeah, I think that's when they made it down there. Yeah.
It was in a place called La Respuesta, which is it's like a small venue. I'm actually going there this weekend because I'm gonna see a metal band called Crypta.
I know Crypta. We know Crypta. I love them. Yeah. Those are friends. Yeah. From Brazil.
Yeah, I'm gonna go see them this weekend. But yeah, I remember Municipal Waste. It was just such a fun show, and we have some cool bands here in Puerto Rico. We have a cool scene. It doesn't get as much recognition because, frankly, record labels here don't give. I don't think give a shit about this type of music. They care about like reggaeton or Spanish music.
Oh yeah, well, because that's the thing. Some of the biggest that kind of music, like reggaeton from Puerto Rico, is one of the biggest musics in the world. So sadly, overlooking what seems so small, heavy metal, for something that is a gigantic international phenomenon like reggaeton. Yeah, it makes sense, especially just being on a small island, And I think that punk and metal scenes, places like, like island scenes, Puerto Rico, or I actually was just talking to someone in Hawaii recently who said, "Oh, I wish everyone would recognize what a strong scene we have here and come visit." And I said, "I'll tell you what, man, those who pay attention know there's a strong scene in Hawaii. We know there's a strong scene in Puerto Rico. But I'm sorry, you live on a fucking island. It's hard to get there to come hang out.
I
And play, you
know,
know?
I know this band that comes here, but
I
they're
can't drive my van to
no,
visit
no,
you. I have to
I
get on a
know.
boat.
No, but we have a band from here that's like a crossover thrash band called Fulminator, and they're gonna do a few shows in the States. So yeah, we have a cool bands here, and we have someone from a band that he's like they do their own like publicity, so they move. So just like you
Yeah,
do it yourself and move along. So yeah, it's a cool story that you started that with just some records and like
it
20
can happen, you know.
years later. Yeah. I started this channel back in 2021 because uh, my ex-wife told me like I'm tired of you talking to me about music that I don't give a shit about.
So
And
you're like, all right, I know people I can talk to. They're on
so
the internet. And there's
so I
tons of them.
started the channel with 0 people, and it started growing from there. So yeah, and now I'm talking to bands. So like, who would have thought? So it's a
Yeah,
thing. So what would you say to someone who's like young and someone who wants to start a business, record label or band? What advice would you give them?
I would tell them to save up money, hold it in their hand, thousands of dollars, save it up, however you could. Hold that money in your hand. And if you're okay with putting it into something that you love, but never getting a penny back, then you're ready to start a record label, because it will be many releases and many years before it becomes your career. So it can only be a passion project. It can only, like most creative things,
Yeah.
it can only start from your heart and your interests. And if your interests and your passion about it is enough that you don't mind hard-earned money, it's not easy to save up thousands of dollars. But if you're okay with putting that in and never getting any of it back, then you're ready to start. Because a huge mistake a lot of record labels make when they start, I'll just do it real easy. Someone says, oh, we made 1,000 CDs. Cool. We sell them for $10 each. We have $10,000. Booyah. Done deal. We're in business. Good job. No, 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 no. That is not how it's going to work. Every record on this shelf behind me, these are unsold. They are not worth. Well, look, I'm getting the thumbs up. I got cool Zoom things. Let's see if I can get the balloons
You're
again.
getting a thumbs up from you.
There we go. I got secrets over here no one knows about. But
nothing happens when I do that.
all these records behind me, they are not worth retail price until someone pays for them. They are a burden, a financial burden on me until they sell. They are worth nothing.
Yeah.
So when you start looking at it like that, the value is not in this piece of vinyl or this compact disc or even this t-shirt. The value is having a fan that appreciates it and will open up their pocketbook to give you the 10, 20, $30 for it. That's where the value is. And none of these records are worth anything until they're in someone's collection, bought and paid for. And so once you get past that your inventory is not money, and you're okay with that, and you're okay with losing money for a while, you'll be fine. You know, I lost shit tons of money. I'm embarrassed to say the numbers of how much money I lost in the last 20 years trying to do this. And there was a point in the label around 2015 where I started actually growing weed, cannabis, illegally. I had a medical marijuana card, but the weed I was growing was being sold on the black market. And I did that. That was another really bold move. I got involved in, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like I was some fucking big deal, but it was a criminal enterprise and I needed cash. And a lot of people in the music industry, you have to go into shady areas to get money. And I did that because I knew it was money would get me past my mistakes and nothing else. And that's just the fucking devastation of the world we live in. That's just the truth. And I had already put so much into it. I was ready to take even more risks to get to the next place. And I was able to, by living out in the middle of nowhere for 3 summers growing weed, I was able to pay off all these old debts and off all these mistakes that I made. And what's a lot of where Tankcrimes is now is because of that, because I was kind of able to start fresh around 2017 with no debt, some money in my pocket, some really good bands on the label, and all the knowledge of the mistakes I had made as in the bumps and growing pains as we were going. And so that really started where I'm at now with Tankcrimes, where it's my career and the bands are out touring together and we're getting, press inquiries and people are actually interested in what we're doing. That took a long time. The saying is like overnight success in 15 years, because if you didn't hear me until today, that's where the story starts for you. Not that I've been doing this for over half of my life, So I think there's a few important things to tell people who want to start a label. And I think I just covered a lot of them.
Oh yeah. And you could have sold weed to Snoop Dogg and Cypress Hill. You would have break even. Because every Cypress Hill record that I listen to, they talk about how much weed they smoke. I reviewed their last album, and I think the slogan was like Cypress Hill writes another record about smoking weed. I'm like, how many songs about smoking weed can you have? Apparently,
well, Cypress Hill's great because I don't see them get this credit very often, but I credit Cypress Hill for making weed mainstream again in the 90s, because weed was mainstream. There we are again. I wonder what other kind of sick. Does it know this one? Oh, fuck yeah. Yo, you guys got to get whatever Zoom download I got. It's the fucking one.
Oh my God, I got to do that for my videos. Yeah.
So, but Cypress Hill, it seemed like weed was mainstream in the 70s, right?
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, it was Reagan and the war on drugs and the DARE program that I grew up with in school. Just Say No, all that stuff. And then the 90s kicked in. And before Snoop Dogg and before Dr. Dre, The Chronic, Cypress Hill were on MTV, beaming right into my TV. And I grew up in a small rural town in Michigan. But they were back saying, weed, weed, weed. We smoke weed. And I'm a kid who smokes weed, but it wasn't mainstream. I mean, I seriously think that Cypress Hill should get credit for weed being legal now. They really brought it back in the mainstream. And now that I'm a grown-ass man who grew up with stuff like Cypress Hill in popular culture, it's real easy for people our age to say, yeah, of course cannabis should be legal. Of course no one should be in jail for it. Of course it's relatively harmless, especially if you take away the illegality. So it takes out the criminal aspect in the first place. So I'm glad you brought up Cypress Hill.
Cypress Hill played in Puerto Rico. I didn't go, but a friend of mine went, and they threw weed to the audience, like free weed. And I was telling my friend, I'm like, isn't that smart? Aren't they losing money? Like, I don't know, but I think Cypress Hill also, not just for the weed, they were one. I think for metalheads, Cypress Hill was always that hip hop band that you could talk to anyone who like punk or metal, and a hip hop group that everyone liked was Cypress Hill.
Yeah, they can agree on it,
because they had, their music was tough, and their image, even the CD covers were kind of metal. They were like,
with the skull and the weed and stuff.
And they did, like in 1990, they did that Skull and Bones record where they had that rock superstar. So they were doing like rock and rap, and it made sense for them because Cypress Hill was always like that band that kind of like was liked by. I haven't heard anyone who likes metal or punk saying that they don't like Cypress Hill. It's just
totally. And then Be Real ends up being in like that incarnation of Rage Against the Machine that they did a couple of years with Chuck D from Public Enemy and stuff.
Prophets of Rage.
Prophets of Rage. So that was really cool too. It was like, these are two guys from the hip hop world that have always been associated with rock and metal and punk. And now they've actually joined like a punk metal band. I mean, the biggest one in the world, Rage Against the Machine, to do that before Rage actually got, back together. So yeah, Cypress Hill, I agree, is totally in the fabric of heavy metal.
Yeah. So When I know that through your label, there's like bands that want to get in touch with you. How should they do? Should they go send demos? How does that work?
They should just say hi to me online or say hi to me at a show, because Tankcrimes does not accept demo submissions.
Okay,
And that
that's
is
a good thing to know.
and that is not because I'm not interested in new music. I absolutely am. I'm a record label. I know who's hot. I know what's going on. I like to keep my finger on the pulse of what's happening, you know? But I'm simply not interested in signing bands or doing stuff like that because of some stuff we talked about earlier. I've already got a bunch of friends that are busy making music, and I also like to keep the roster really tight because, like I said, I
You can
want my
control
bands.
it better too.
Yeah, well, I want my bands to be able to put those expectations on me of that they would get from a larger label, but because
It's
it's just me,
like the Jerry Maguire mentality.
yeah,
Remember that
I
movie?
can't. Yeah, I can't be in charge of 100 bands, but I can do a really good job with 5 bands and make sure everybody's needs are listened to and approached with thoughtfulness. You know.
Yeah, no, totally. So, Scott, I know you have a busy day, more people to talk to, but I assure you that you won't have as much fun as with the shield dude on a couch.
I love that. Let's see if I can get. Let's see if I can figure out some other hand signals to get
Yeah,
that thing going. I don't know.
yeah. No, if you go like this,
Yeah.
ah, that's the power of Cypress Hill entering your body.
Yeah. Do they know? Is there a weed one? Nah, nah.
I don't
They
know,
didn't get
but
that far
I
yet.
gotta check out how to do that because it's hilarious as hell.
Yeah,
So
that was fun. I just figured it out. It happened to me a couple times yesterday with the birthday signs, but now I know why they're there. I'm
yeah,
fucking magic on Zoom, dude.
yeah. So I gotta check that out. So people, if you haven't checked out Tankcrimes, the label, go do it. There's awesome bands there. Dead Heat. You have Ghoul. You have Necrot, which is another band that put out an album a few years ago. And I'll put the link for the record.
Cool. Thanks.
So people who wanna just put the link and get in there. And of course, go for that Brain Squeeze Tour 2024, Cash Municipal Waste, because it's a lot of fucking fun. When does that start again?
That starts like February 15th. And one thing I think we got sidetracked that I want to note is that I mean, I've already heaped a ton of praise on Municipal Waste, but they booked the tour. Their booking agent is a man named Nick Storch, did us a huge favor by booking that tour. Tony from Municipal Waste put together the lineup, and they surprised me with it like it was a freaking birthday present or something, you know? And I immediately got on. And one of the things I want to do, and one of the reasons I'm talking to you, is I just want to show my guys what a valuable asset I can be in marketing the tour, and that I'll really just give it my all and make sure that we can have a great time and with a lot of people.
You have a great personality.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been really nice talking to you, Hector.
That's very important. So people support Tankcrimes. You know, independent record labels are awesome because, you know, they have a lot of cool music and they have their ear in the underground. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank you and goodbye.